Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Metal Command podcast. Tony here with you, and today I am bringing you an interview with Patrik Selleby of the band Bloodbound. Of course, they put out a brand new album this year called Tales from the North. Patrik and I did this interview earlier in the year. It definitely aired on my radio show, but it's also now going to air here on YouTube. Of course, we did a great podcast talking about the band and talking about the new album and much more. So check it out. Here is my interview with Patrik Selleby of Bloodbound. If you like what you see and hear, please hit the subscribe button, like this video, leave a comment on this video, and hit that little bell to be notified anytime I do post a video. Thanks for watching. Here is the interview with myself and Patrik Selleby. Patrik, welcome to the Metal Command show. Definitely am a very big fan of Bloodbound and have been since the first album came out. So it's really nice to be able to have you on the show and have a member of the band on the show for the first time in a very long time, actually. So talk about the new album you got coming out and, let everybody know what it's about. And, I know normally, the band really has a lot of like fantasy type lyrics that they typically write about, but, musically, I always tell everybody that, I'm not as into the whole power metal thing as I used to be, but you guys are one of the bands I still love. And, especially over the last 3 or 4 releases, I think have been the best the band has ever done. So, talk about the new album, and we'll kind of start off from there.
First of all, I'm really glad you like the album.
Mm-hmm.
And this album have a Viking theme in the lyrics wise, right, compared to the previous albums. And that is maybe what is most different from the previous albums.
Yeah.
We took it from the previous album, The Creatures of the Dark Realm, which was about mythological creatures in a way. And Thomas, who is the main lyric writer, came up with the idea that we take it from there, but we go to the Nordic mythology instead. Mm-hmm. So it has a natural continuation, I guess. But the album, the songwriting was like we normally do. We always write. It's an ongoing process, I guess. If I have a riff, I can record it and save it for later in the vault. And we all do that. Thomas, me, and Fredrik. We are 3 songwriters. We always write songs, and when it's time to record, let's start to gathering the materials. We see what we have, and we send files to each other and build the album from that. And this time was no different. We did the same process. We came up, and this is the result.
Mm-hmm. Right. For me, I follow this band from the first album, and I always tell everybody this band has kind of like 2 different eras. You had the early era of the band, which your first 3 albums, you had a couple different singers, but to me, the turning point and where I think things really came together for the band was when you joined, because ever since you joined, the lineup became very solid. It became, you had that. They have the guy in the band, the singer, and not only singer but songwriter and a member of the band that's just solid and is going to stick around. And I really think that it really helped establish the band to what you guys have become now. And talk about that process of joining these guys and really helping to make that happen. Because for me, it was like a new start, and then ever since then, I think the band has pretty much put out pretty flawless albums since then. Whereas like the beginning, the albums were good in the beginning, but it was kind of what we would say disjointed, because you had one singer and then you have another singer, and then the first singer comes back, and then you finally come in. But then when you came in, everything seemed to come together.
Yeah, it was Thomas and Fredrik who started the band from the beginning. And they had problems with singers. And it didn't feel like a band, as you said, I guess, because they couldn't get the stable lineup and everything. But they have told me that when, as you said when I joined, they felt that we were a real band.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, it was more like a project in a way, and we just came along very good, really nicely. We are like now we are 6 best friends who play music together.
Right.
We have always a good time. But for me, it all started when I started to book some gigs in my hometown. So I booked Bloodbound for a show because I was a huge fan of the band. So they came to my hometown, and after the show, we had a few beers together, and I had another band called Dawn of Silence. So they wanted to hear that, so I played it for them, and they said that, "Oh, your vocals are really nice." And then we kept in touch a little bit, and when it was time for them to get another new singer, they called me. We already talked for a few years, so we started to know each other at the time, and just everything came together, I think, for the band when I joined.
I would totally agree. And, I always talk about this on my show, where I think that bands, when they're changing, when you're changing members too often, like when you literally are going through too many people, especially singers, a lot of times that, that can hurt a band in a way, because, you have a different guy, you have a different sound. People don't know what to expect. If you start switching out guitar players and songwriters, it just really ruins sort of that, not image, but continuity, as we call it, because you don't have the time for these guys to gel. Like if I were to go listen to the first album you did with the band, comparing to the last, say, 2 or 3 records that you've done, I mean, there's no comparison. I mean, I think the last 2 or 3 albums have been great. And I think a big reason for that is the fact that you guys have stayed together and worked together, and, you have grown together. And I've always believed that, musicians in general, once they kind of click, they should stick together as much as they can to grow. And I think you guys have really done a great job at doing that.
Yeah. You become a unit when you work together for years. And I think that can also shown in the live shows, that we are really good friends. We have a lot of fun. We're doing this because we love the music, and we really love each other. Also, if we didn't come along as good as we do, it would probably not be worth it to do it.
Right.
So I just love those guys, and we have a lot of fun together.
Absolutely. So, speaking of live shows, has it been, it's been in the news, bands canceling gigs, festivals kind of that don't exist anymore because of financial stuff. Has that been a problem for you guys, or have you guys been able to get through a lot of that, as far as, playing live, playing shows, and, even with the increased cost and everything that's been going on?
Yeah, we still have done what we have planned to do. We just, a couple of months ago, we did a European tour, which was pretty successful, but the ticket sales have gone down all over Europe after the pandemic. And that's a fact for every band. And I've seen that a lot of bands are canceling their tours because of this. But I think our tour was pretty successful.
Sure.
And we don't play live all the time. We just choose what we want to do because we have regular day jobs, all of us. Most of the band members have small kids, so we can't be on tour all the time, and probably that would have been an issue if we just lived from the music.
Correct. Yeah.
So we just choose what we want to do, and we don't do we do 1 or 2 tours a year. something like that. And then we do summer festivals.
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest reason why we are not suffering from this as much as others.
Yeah, understood. I've always, here's the other thing I like. I love the fact that this band writes a lot of, fantasy lyrics or lyrics about mythology. And it's interesting. Back like 20 some years ago, you saw a lot of that with a lot of power metal bands. You don't see it as much now, but you guys continue to do it. And I think it works really well, to be honest. And the other thing is, what's interesting is that as these albums have evolved, the production, everything about what you're doing has gotten better. The production on the records has gotten better, just everything in general. And what would you say is the biggest reason for that?
First of all, about the lyrics, the fantasy theme, I think it really fits this kind of music. You don't want to sing about real life stuff, I guess, about love or whatever. This kind of lyric theme really fits the music. And when it comes to the music, we just try to develop the sound all the time and our main focus has always been to do as good songs as possible. And not so much more thought than that. If we like an idea or a song, we just go with it. And when you do it more and more, you just get better at it, I guess.
Yeah. And I would agree with that. So for the new album, for the people that have heard it, what kind of response have you received from people that have heard the new record?
It's actually been overwhelming. The reviews have been really, really good. And the record label, their first reaction was, "Oh my God, this is such a great album." And I haven't seen very, very many reviews, but those I've seen have been really good. So the response has been awesome so far.
Well, it's good that the record label loves it because they're the ones that ultimately have to sell. But yeah, I agree. I would agree with a lot of people. Personally, for me, I've only been listening to it for a very, very short time. So, most of the time when I do a review, I've listened to the album for about at least 2 or 3 weeks. But, what I can tell, and I've always had, every time I listen to this band, I think you guys improve a little bit. But the last 2 albums before this, and even this one, I rated them a 10 out of 10. I'm going to be honest with you. This one is pretty much the same. I think it just, you get to that level to the point where you're just consistently putting some really good stuff out. And the band has really done that. Even before you joined it, that you still had very good material, and they consistently have put out a good album. And I think the last 3 have been the best the band's, been at musically, in my opinion. Just, when you go to the production of the album, as I stated before, when you go and listen to just the quality of the songs that are written, it's at this level, man. I mean, you guys are here. It shocks me that this band doesn't have a bigger following than they do. I'm just being honest. I think, especially, power metal in the US has never really been huge, but it still shocks me that you guys don't have a bigger following than you do, to be honest.
I think one of the reasons for that is that we don't tour all the time, as I said, because I really think, compared to a lot of other bands who has really great musicians, but they don't have the strong songs. Maybe they have cool riffs and stuff like that, but we really focus on the vocal melodies. To have strong vocal melodies, to have strong choruses. And I guess a lot of bands actually are missing out on that. Not everyone. There are really great power metal bands, I don't say that, but I think that's our strongest I lost the word, but
one of your biggest strengths, we could say that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. But as I said, probably if we toured more, we would probably be a bigger name.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main reason why we're not bigger.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And when you talk about strong vocal melodies, the one thing I do absolutely love about the vocals, and I'm a singer myself, is the fact I love the vocal layering you guys do. A lot of people don't think about things like that, but when I listen to some of the choruses and choirs and things like that you guys do on the albums, the vocal layering is fantastic, and it's not too what you would say bombastic, I guess. That's probably I'm trying to figure out a word how to describe it, but the vocal layering and the melodies in the vocal harmonies on top of what you are singing, I think that to me is one of the biggest reasons I love the band, because you write these songs. The one thing I've noticed about Bloodbound is you don't necessarily try to write these crazy long songs. I mean, some of the songs are usually 3-4 minutes long, but the thing is that they are straight to the point. They're catchy. You guys don't try. Some power metal bands, they'll try to write like these 11-minute songs and try to write these big epics and things like that. But you guys stick to some very basic song structures and some really and focus more on the melody. As you said, it's an interesting point you made, because I love the vocal layering that you guys do. In all seriousness, that's one of the biggest, besides the guitar playing and the songwriting itself, the vocal layering and the melodies behind that, I think that is probably the biggest strength with the band.
Yeah. We have this more like pop rock format. When we do songs, of course, we could probably do one epic song on one album or something like that. But we just have this structure, and today people don't have the same amount of time to listen to music. The kids today, they only listen to like half a song, then they change. Yeah. So it's getting more and more into shorter songs, I guess. But at least we still have the album format. We think album when we write songs, and right. When we do the album. So for the dynamics and for you can't just do like 12 really fast songs. It would be kind of boring to listen to in the end. So we tried to have some dynamics.
Yeah, the album I really liked when it came out, and I think it was because the songs were just basically, they weren't super long. They were straight to the point. Was In the Name of Metal. I think like when I think of, I remember, in fact, in my opinion, when that album came out, that started to me the streak of really good records that you've put out ever since. I think your first album with them, again, you're kind of feeling each other out. You're new to the band. Typically there's always, a record like that will come out, but like when I remember when I listened to it, I kept thinking, I think this band is going to get better with the new singer and the lineup if they stick together. I consider that probably my least favorite of the albums that since you've been in the band, but I think that you could tell that when there was a huge jump from that to the next record. And I think just having that songwriting formula really works for you guys.
I think like when I joined, when we did my first album on Holy Cross, was the songs were already written, and it was kind of a statement after the Tabula Rasa album that we're going back to the power metal that we did from the beginning. Mm-hmm. It was like a real statement with that album. And then Thomas and Frederick started to write on the In the Name of Metal album, and it's kind of different.
Yeah.
It was like, let's do an album that is a tribute to the metal scene, the metals grew up with. So we have like the Ozzy song, we have the Bon Jovi song and stuff like that on that. So it was kind of different. And as you said, I was new in the band. So I was like, okay, should we do this now? It felt a little bit strange.
Yeah.
But I really think on the album after that, Stormborn, we really found our sound.
Yeah.
And we all felt that because we were like, this is how we should sound like.
Yep.
So after that, we have kind of kept in the same direction, kept going in the same direction. So,
well, that's my opinion. Stormborn up to this new album, to me, that's like that's the band's best group of albums. You know, that's definitely a turning point because there definitely is a significant difference between Stormborn and In the Name of Metal. But In the Name of Metal kind of felt like some kind of transition album with you guys working together. Stormborn's great. You know, Satanic Panic and a lot of those songs that are on that record. I think that really set the stage for what you're doing now. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and that's how it is, as we felt also.
Gotcha. So off the new album, you know, if you had to pick your favorite song off of it, which one would it be?
I really love the title track, the first song on the album, Tales from the North, because it has this Halloween vibe to it. And I'm a huge Halloween fan, and I've been since I was like 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So when Thomas, who wrote the song, came up with it, I was like, yeah, this is the best power metal song I heard in ages.
Right.
So I really, really love that one.
Yeah, I agree. But as I've said, it's really hard because when bands are consistently putting out pretty good stuff, you know, I kind of like, I'll kind of listen to the new album and then I go back and you're like, man, you know, it's really kind of, when I try to compare your records to the other ones, I don't think they're any better or worse. I think that they're consistently very good. It's how I put it. But I agree with you. So Halloween had a pretty big influence on your singing, your songwriting. You know, what was the biggest influence they had on you?
I don't really know, because Iron Maiden and Halloween was my, you know, two favorite bands growing up. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the energy in the music. I can't really tell what it is, but it's really good musicianship, and it's also great vocals, great songs. Yeah, it's like, it's hard to put finger on why.
You know, it's crazy because, like, who would have ever thought that they would have two singers in the band?
Yeah,
you know, I mean, and it's crazy to see that stage show now with, you know, all of those guys on stage together playing a lot of these songs. And it's the show is phenomenal. I mean, it really is. It's like that band's sort of like peaking now, in my opinion, more so than they did, you know, back, you know, in the heyday, whether it was the Keeper era or even, you know, like, you know, the era before, you know, after that. And I think it's cool that they've done what they've done as far as, you know, bringing Michael Kiske back, and then you got two singers. It's pretty crazy show. I don't know if you've seen it, but
I saw the first tour they did it when they were in Sweden. It was really, really good.
Yeah.
And I also think that you can see that they are having fun now again.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
You can see that Darius and Kiske are really good friends, and I've seen that in interviews that they really come along together, and they have a lot of fun. It's a lot of energy in the shows, and to see Kiske sing, you know, Eagle Fly Free and those songs are like amazing.
Yeah, I get that. Like I said, I get that same fun energy from you guys, you know, from the music you put out, and it almost has that vibe. And usually when bands don't feel that crazy pressure and they're having fun doing it, you'll get better records out of it, as opposed to a record label like breathing down your neck, trying to like make you do something maybe you don't want to do, or try to force you to do into something that you shouldn't be forced into. So I think it's cool that AFM has been with you guys. You've been with them for quite some time now, and I think they've done a great job for you guys.
Yeah, and they never interfere with the music, with the writing process, because they mainly love what we do. and we love to do it. And because we don't try to do something we're not, because we just love this kind of music, and we try to do as good songs as we can, as I said.
Gotcha. Do you have any plans to do any shows coming up? I know you don't tour or play that much, but anything coming down the pipe for you guys from the live perspective for you guys playing out, maybe like in Europe or someplace like that?
Now it's the summer festival. We're gonna do next week. We're going to Germany to a festival called Rock Hearts. We're actually gonna do the show the same day as the record is released. So it's gonna be like a release party kind of thing. We're gonna have albums there and we're gonna have a signing session and meet and greet, stuff like that. And a week after that, we're going to Masters of Rock in Czech Republic. Really, really nice festival. So that's what we have planned now. We have some plans for the autumn, but nothing I can tell you right now. So we'll see what happens with those plans.
I gotcha. So it's not a big thing here, but do you guys ever get do you guys ever interact with any fans from the US? Anybody? Does the band have any kind of anyone from the US? You guys get like a decent amount of reaction from over here. I know power metal in the US, in the States, is hit or miss, for bands like yourselves and not just you, but Halloween or anybody out there, really, to be honest, that plays this kind of music. Do you guys get any kind of fan reaction from over here besides like me and maybe a couple other people?
Mostly on like social media. There's some American fans, of course, but we know that European power metal is not as big in US as it is here, and that's the reason why we're not doing like US tours, because it's costs a lot of money, and you need to tour US a lot, I guess, to become bigger there, and we just don't have that kind of time or money to do that. But we actually played at least the Prog Power Festival,
correct,
in Atlanta, and there we saw there were a lot of Bloodbound fans there. Yeah, and that was pretty cool. And we also did 70,000 Tons of Metal, the cruise.
Yeah.
And also there, the same. We had a lot of people on the shows, a lot of fans who said that they've been like waiting for us to come to the US. So at least we have some fans.
Yeah.
Hopefully it became more.
Yeah. It's always difficult here, especially with the rising cost of everything, because to cover the entire US, if you didn't take any days off, would take you like a month. I mean, minimum. That's if you didn't take any nights off. It usually takes about a month. And, the cost of buses and vans and everything else, and having to fly over here, and it can get pretty pricey. A lot of people don't realize that even before the cost of everything went up, it was already difficult. So, to come here, Prog Power is a perfect place to play because, a lot of the people that are into the band are going to travel to Prog Power to see you. You're going to have the people, because it's one of the, like any other festival, a lot of people travel. They want to travel to see all these bands, and that's probably, you saw a lot of your fans concentrated there because of that. So that's cool.
And I also think that they are like booking a lot of European power metal bands there. So the people who really like that kind of music have the perfect place to see not just one band, at least a handful of bands that never come to us in other on tours or whatever. So that's really great. I think that festival, great thing.
I would totally agree, because everybody can just fly there. You get tickets and you can go and see not just you guys, but a lot of other really cool bands that normally would never, ever come over here. So I got a couple more questions for you before we head out and end the interview here. I have to ask you this. If you had to pick your favorite album? I know you're always supposed to say it's the new one, but what do you think? What do you think is one? What do you think are some of the strongest albums that the band has ever done? I mean, if you had to pick a couple of them, which ones do you feel? Which ones do you feel like, man? You look back on it, because every time you record a record, obviously you're kind of like you're into it too much, like you're too involved with it, and then you really don't get a perspective until you look back at it, right? And then if you look back, any of the albums, let's say the albums before this, let's not count this one, any album before this new one, what do you think is the strongest record you guys have done since you've been in the band?
It's really hard because you always have like favorite songs on each album.
Mm-hmm.
But I really, really had a good feeling when we were recording War of Dragons.
Okay.
The album. Because it has really, really strong material, I guess. I also think that Creatures of the Dark Realm is a good album, but on that album, I wrote a lot of the music. So I can't really say that one because it was mostly me and Fredrik who did all the songs. Thomas wrote like 2 songs on that album.
Right.
But on the new one, Thomas is coming back again a little bit and did most of the songs on the new album. So, and also Rise of the Dragon Empire is also really, really strong songs. But as a whole, so I don't know. Probably, as you said, right now it's the new one.
Mm-hmm.
But I like everything we've done, at least from Stormborn.
Yeah.
And as I said, there are favorite songs on each album, so it's very hard to pick one.
What about if you went back to the first 2 albums that you did with the band? What would some of your favorite songs off of those records be? Like going back and looking at like Unholy Cross and what would you think would be some of your favorite songs on those records?
It's been a very long time since I listened to those.
Right.
But as I recall, I really like the title track of the Unholy Cross album.
Yeah.
The last song. It's very, very cool song. We never did that live. But of course, like Moria from Unholy Cross is the most streamed songs, and most people seem to love that one. And it's not that I listen to that song when I'm at home, but it's always fun to do live. And the same goes with the title track of the In the Name of Metal album, because that song has become like a real live anthem. People really love to hear that live. And that's probably one of the best songs in that way from that album.
Right.
There's a song called Bone Breaker on the In the Name of Metal album. It's more like a power metal kind of song. And that was one of my favorites when we recorded the album.
Right. Unholy Cross. Have you guys ever talked about maybe playing that live?
We talked about it when we released the album. Mm-hmm. In the beginning there, but just not, I don't know why we never played it. Probably we felt in a way that maybe it's not going to be a good live song, it's not like a live anthem you can sing along to or something like that, but we never tried it at all.
Hey man, I always look at it like this, man. If Iron Maiden finally played Alexander the Great live, you guys can probably do Unholy Cross. You can do that as a thing, because it's like Iron Maiden playing that song live. I used to like, will they ever play it? And then they finally did. It's like one of those tracks I
actually saw that a couple of weeks ago because we were playing Sweden Rock Festival.
Okay.
On the same day as Iron Maiden. So I watched the show and saw Alexander the Great, and it was really, really awesome. But I would also want to hear Deja Vu from the same album.
Yeah, they left that one off. I'm a little disappointed in that.
Yeah, because I really love that song.
Yeah, that was.
And they opened the show with Caught Somewhere in Time also. It was really nice. Yeah.
But it's funny. It's like Alexander the Great. You know, it's like, man, will they ever play it? And I remember like a long time ago interviewing Bruce Dickinson and asking him, and I never would get a straight answer. Like they didn't want to answer the question. It was like they wanted nothing to do with it, and then suddenly out of nowhere they finally play it. Almost 40 years later for the first time ever. Yeah, Deja Vu's another one, man. I think that's another song that sort of has been left out still. I mean, we have to hear that one at some point. I'm really happy to hear that.
I was in an Iron Maiden cover band, and we always did Deja Vu.
Yeah. I hope the band does it one day.
Yeah.
Maybe Bloodbound should cover it as like a bonus track. Because you guys definitely could do it. I could see you guys actually recording that as a cover, maybe like a bonus track for something, like a Digipack bonus track or whatnot. And I could see it sounding pretty good. Actually, I could see it kind of making it sound a little bit like Bloodbound, but still have that song and that essence of that song in there. So, but hey, I'll tell you what, it was great to have you on the show. Any last words for the fans that'll be checking out this interview?
Just check out the new album. It's going to be released on the 7th of July. And we hope that in some way we can come to the US to play for the few fans we have over there. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.